The Silent Watchers. The Proxima Observatory sat silent and still on the dark side of Luna, its massive array of quantum sensors pointed toward the endless void. Inside, Dr. Kai Nakamura stared at his displays, his eyes narrowed as patterns emerged from the quantum noise. For 3 years, he had been tracking anomalies in the fabric of space-time. Tiny, almost imperceptible ripples that conventional science dismissed as background radiation. But Kai knew better. "They're watching us," he whispered, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces as he enhanced the signal. "Computer, run correlation analysis on anomaly cluster Epsilon 7. The quantum computer hummed softly, processing petabytes of data in seconds. The display shifted, revealing a pattern that made Kai's blood run cold. The anomalies weren't random. They were arranged in a perfect geometric lattice, spanning the outer edges of the solar system. "Get me Admiral Chase," he said, his voice steady despite the fear crawling up his spine. Priority Alpha. Half a world away, deep beneath the Antarctic ice, Admiral Helena Chase stood in the control center of Earth's most classified military installation, Sanctuary. The room buzzed with activity as officers monitored global defense systems that the public had no knowledge of. Giant holographic displays showed orbital defense platforms disguised as communications satellites, underwater bases hidden in the deepest trenches, and stealth fighters capable of leaving atmosphere without detection. For 50 years, Earth had been preparing in secret. The question had never been if aliens existed, but when they would come. Her neural implant chimed. "Admiral, priority communication from Proxima Observatory." Helena's steel-gray eyes narrowed. "Put him through." Kai's face appeared on her private display. "Admiral, I've confirmed it. We're being watched." The quantum distortions matched the theoretical patterns of cloaked observation platforms. They've been there for at least 2 years. Helena showed no emotion, but her mind raced. "How many?" "Hundreds, possibly thousands. They form a complete surveillance network around our system. Can they detect our defenses?" Kai shook his head. "The quantum shielding on our facilities should make them invisible to conventional scanning technology. As far as they can tell, we're still a primitive species just beginning to explore our own solar system." Helena nodded. "Keep monitoring. I want to know the moment anything changes." "Yes, Admiral." As the connection closed, Helena turned to her second-in-command, Commander Jackson Wei. "It's happening, Jack, just like the predictions." Wei's face remained impassive, but his eyes betrayed his concern. "Should we alert the Council?" "Not yet. We need more information." Helena moved to the central platform and activated the command interface. "Elevate defense condition to level 3. Silent protocol." Throughout the solar system, hidden installations acknowledged the command. Weapon systems powered up. Stealth fighters moved into defensive positions. 500,000 soldiers, pilots, and crew members, all sworn to secrecy, all hidden from public view, prepared for war. No alarms sounded. No public announcements were made. Earth continued its daily routines, blissfully unaware of the eyes watching from the darkness. Across the galaxy, in the Grand Chamber of the Hegemony Council, Supreme Commander Xorthal stood before the assembled leaders of the most powerful civilization in the known universe. His iridescent scales gleamed under the harsh light as he gestured to the holographic display of a small blue-green planet. "Earth," he said, his translator converting his native clicks and whistles into the common language of the hegemony. "A Class 3 developing world. Technologically primitive, politically fractured, but rich in resources and genetic diversity." Counselor Vexera, representative of the ancient Zorith race, leaned forward. "They have achieved spaceflight." "Barely." Xorthal replied with a dismissive wave. "Chemical rockets, a few orbital platforms, a single outpost on their moon. They've sent primitive probes to nearby planets, but nothing beyond their own system." "Weapons?" asked another counselor. "Nuclear fission, some fusion, conventional projectiles, and explosives. Nothing that could threaten even our smallest vessels. High Counselor Genva, the eldest member of the Council and leader of the hegemony for 3 centuries, studied the hologram carefully. They look familiar. Exorthal nodded. They shared genetic markers with the progenitors. Their potential is concerning. A murmur spread through the chamber. The progenitors, the mysterious race that had seeded the galaxy with life before vanishing, were a subject of both fascination and fear among the hegemony races. Then we should act quickly, Genva decided. How long have we been observing them? 2 Earth years, Sorthel replied. Our quantum observation platforms have mapped their entire civilization. We know their strengths, their weaknesses, their divisions. They will fall easily. And they suspect nothing. Nothing. Their primitive scanning technology cannot detect our platforms. Genva's ancient eyes narrowed. Prepare the invasion fleet. I want this world secured before they advance further. The humans must be contained before they realize their potential. Exorthal bowed deeply. It shall be done, High Counselor. I will lead the vanguard myself. As he left the chamber, Exorthal allowed himself a small gesture of satisfaction, a rapid clicking of his mandibles that his species used to express pleasure. Earth would be his greatest conquest, another jewel in the crown of his illustrious military career. Little did he know that the primitive humans had been watching him watching them. 3 days later, as Earth turned peacefully in its orbit, the first sign of the coming storm appeared. A quantum fluctuation rippled across the solar system as hundreds of hegemony warships dropped out of hyperspace near Jupiter. In the Proxima Observatory, alarms blared. Dr. Kai Nakamura jolted awake from his brief rest, eyes wide as he took in the readings. No, he muttered, fingers flying across interfaces. They're early. We're not ready. His neural implant activated automatically. Admiral Chase, they're here. Massive hyperspace signatures near Jupiter. I count at least 400 capital ships and thousands of smaller vessels. In Sanctuary, Helena Chase was already moving. I see it. Initiate Operation Nightfall. All personnel to battle stations. Wake the Guardians. Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden defenders sprang into action. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, massive hangar doors slid open, revealing rows of sleek warships. Within the asteroid belt, mining operations transformed into military installations, revealing gun emplacements and missile platforms. On Earth, specialized military units quietly mobilized, moving into hardened bunkers and command centers. In orbit around Neptune, the pride of Earth's secret fleet, the EDA's Avalon, powered up its systems. Captain Eliza Martinez stood on the bridge of the massive warship, watching as her crew prepared for battle. Status report, she demanded, her voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. All systems operational, Captain, her XO reported. Quantum shields at full capacity. Gravitic weapons online. The rest of Battle Group Omega is awaiting your command. Eliza nodded, studying the tactical display. The alien fleet was moving in a standard invasion formation, spreading out to surround the inner planets. They clearly expected no resistance. They think we're defenseless, she said quietly. Let's disabuse them of that notion. Signal the fleet. Execute Protocol Thunderstrike. Throughout the outer solar system, Earth's hidden warships, over 500 of them, built in secret over decades, decloaked simultaneously. Each was a marvel of engineering, incorporating technologies that official science claimed were decades or even centuries away. Quantum shielding, gravitic weapons, fusion drives, and more. On board the Hegemony flagship, Supreme Commander Sorthel received the first reports with disbelief. Impossible, he hissed, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. The humans have no such technology. Our surveillance was thorough. His second-in-command, a veteran of a dozen conquest campaigns, studied the incoming data with growing alarm. The readings are clear, Commander. These are advanced warships, and they're moving to intercept. Torthel's compound eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. The human ships were arranging themselves in a defensive formation, cutting off his fleet's approach to the inner planets. A bluff, he decided. They must have detected our observation platforms and hastily constructed these vessels. They cannot possibly match our firepower or experience. He turned to his weapons officer. Target the largest human vessel. Show them the futility of resistance. The Hegemony flagship, a massive dreadnought over 3 kilometers long, oriented toward the EDS Avalon. Energy built up in its primary weapon, a gravitic cannon capable of tearing a small moon apart. Aboard the Avalon, Captain Martinez watched calmly. "They're targeting us," her tactical officer reported. "Energy buildup suggests their main weapon is preparing to fire." Martinez nodded. "As expected, activate countermeasures." As the Hegemony dreadnought fired, a blinding beam of concentrated gravitational energy lanced toward the Avalon. But it never reached its target. Halfway between the ships, the beam suddenly twisted, folding back on itself in an impossible loop before dissipating harmlessly into space. On the Hegemony bridge, Xorthel stared in disbelief. "What happened?" "Unknown, Commander," his science officer replied, mandibles clicking in confusion. "The humans appear to have some form of gravitational manipulation technology far beyond what our intelligence suggested." Before Xorthal could respond, his tactical officer shouted a warning. "Multiple weapons locks. The humans are firing." From the Avalon and its escort ships, dozens of sleek missiles launched simultaneously, their propulsion systems leaving no visible exhaust as they accelerated to impossible speeds. The Hegemony's defensive systems tracked them but couldn't lock on. The missiles seemed to bend space around themselves, appearing in multiple locations at once. The first impacts rocked the Hegemony fleet. Ships that had conquered 1,000 worlds found their shields penetrated, their hulls breached, not by primitive nuclear weapons or kinetic projectiles, but by weapons that manipulated the fundamental forces of reality. Xorthel gripped his command console as his flagship shuddered under multiple impacts. "Impossible," he whispered. "They were primitive. We watched them for years." His communications officer turned to him, fear evident in his posture. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the humans. Text only." "Display it," Xorthel ordered. A simple message appeared on the main screen. "You have violated Earth-controlled space. You have 5 minutes to surrender or withdraw. There will be no further warnings." Xorthal's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. Arrogance. They think a few lucky strikes give them the advantage. He turned to his fleet commanders. "All ships, advance. Full attack pattern. Show these primitives the might of the Hegemony." As the alien fleet moved forward, Earth's defenders implemented the strategy they had rehearsed for decades. The Avalon and its battle group accelerated toward the approaching armada, while smaller, faster ships darted between the enemy vessels, deploying quantum mines and targeting propulsion systems. In Sanctuary, Admiral Chase watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. "They took the bait," she said to Commander Wei. "Deploy the Ghost Fleet." We nodded and transmitted the command. In orbit around Earth, previously invisible defense platforms activated, launching thousands of autonomous drones. Each was the size of a small car, but packed with advanced weaponry and artificial intelligence. They streaked toward the battle, ready to join the fray. As the drones approached, the Hegemony fleet found itself caught in a deadly crossfire. Their ships, designed for conquest and intimidation, suddenly seemed cumbersome and vulnerable against the smaller, more agile human vessels. On the Hegemony flagship, alarms blared as system after system reported failures. Xorthal watched in horror as nearly a third of his fleet was disabled or destroyed in the opening minutes of the battle. "How?" he demanded, turning to his intelligence officer. "How did we miss this?" The officer's mandibles trembled. "They must have hidden their true capabilities, Commander. Our observation platforms only saw what they wanted us to see." Xorthal's rage built as the implications became clear. The humans hadn't just been lucky. They had been waiting, preparing. For years, perhaps decades, they had known they were being watched and had created an elaborate deception. Tactical retreat, he ordered, his pride overruled by survival instinct. Fall back to the rally point near Saturn. We need to regroup and reassess. As the hegemony ships began their withdrawal, leaving damaged and disabled vessels behind, Captain Martinez watched from the bridge of the Avalon. "They're retreating, Captain," her XO reported. Martinez nodded, her expression serious. This was just their vanguard. They'll be back, and in greater numbers. Should we pursue? Martinez considered for a moment, then shook her head. No, we've made our point. Now we prepare for the real battle. She opened a channel to Earth. Admiral Chase, Phase 1 complete. The enemy is withdrawing. In Sanctuary, Helena Chase received the report with a grim nod. Well done, Captain. Return to defensive positions and begin repairs. This was just the opening move. She turned to the central holographic display, where the retreating hegemony fleet was represented by red icons moving away from Earth. Now we wait for their response. As she studied the display, Helena knew that humanity had won the first battle, but the war had only just begun. The hegemony would return with a larger force, desperate to save face, and conquer the world that had dared to resist. But Earth would be ready. In shipyards hidden throughout the solar system, thousands more warships waited, crewed by men and women who had trained their entire lives for this moment. The aliens believed Earth was helpless. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The Shadow Armada. 3 days after the initial skirmish, the Hegemony Council convened an emergency session. The chamber, usually a model of order and decorum, now buzzed with agitated conversations as representatives from 100 worlds tried to make sense of the unprecedented defeat. Supreme Commander Xorthal stood before them, his normally proud posture diminished by shame and anger. The holographic display behind him showed the battle data. Nearly a third of his vanguard fleet lost to the supposedly primitive humans. Explain this catastrophe, High Counselor Genva demanded, her ancient voice cutting through the chamber's noise like a blade. Xorthal's mandibles clicked nervously. The humans deceived us, High Counselor. They allowed us to see only what they wanted us to see, a primitive civilization barely capable of reaching their own moon. In reality, they possess technology rivaling our own. Impossible, another counselor objected. Our observation network was comprehensive. We monitored their communications, their energy outputs, their industrial centers. Nothing suggested advanced capabilities. And yet, Genva said quietly, they defeated our vanguard with ease. She fixed her compound eyes on Xorthal. What do you propose, Commander? Xorthal straightened, regaining some of his confidence. We underestimated them once. We will not do so again. I request the deployment of the main armada, all available warships from the core worlds. We will overwhelm them with sheer numbers and firepower. A murmur spread through the chamber. The main armada represented the combined might of the hegemony, over 10,000 capital ships and tens of thousands of support vessels. It had not been fully mobilized in over a century. Genva considered for a long moment. Very well. You have your armada, Commander. But understand this. Failure is not an option. Either you return victorious, or you do not return at all. Xorthal bowed deeply. I will not fail, High Counselor. The humans caught us unprepared once. They will not do so again. As the council session ended, Xorthal marched toward the command center, already planning his strategy. This time, there would be no subtle approach, no careful positioning. He would bring the full might of the hegemony down upon the humans like a hammer, crushing their defenses through overwhelming force. Whatever hidden capabilities they possessed, they could not possibly stand against the main armada. On Earth, in the Antarctic Command Center of Sanctuary, Admiral Helena Chase reviewed the latest intelligence with her senior staff. The quantum sensors embedded throughout the solar system had detected the massive energy signatures of thousands of alien ships gathering at the edge of the heliopause. "They're bringing their main fleet," Commander Wee observed, studying the holographic display. "At least 10,000 capital ships, according to preliminary scans." Helena nodded, her expression grim but determined. "As expected. The question is, do we have enough?" Dr. Kai Nakamura, who had been called to Sanctuary after the initial battle, looked up from his datapad. "The hegemony doesn't know about Project Thanatos, Admiral. They have no way of knowing our full capabilities." Helena turned to her Chief of Operations. "Status of the Ghost Fleet. All units operational, Admiral. The autonomous systems are fully integrated and combat-ready. The swarm intelligence has run over 10 million battle simulations against the projected hegemony forces. Our success probability ranges from 62 to 78%, depending on their tactics." Helena studied the tactical display, her mind racing through possibilities. The Ghost Fleet, nearly 500,000 autonomous warships hidden throughout the solar system, represented humanity's ultimate defense. Developed over decades in secret underground facilities, each vessel combined advanced AI with weapons systems that manipulated quantum reality itself. No human lives would be risked aboard these ships. They were humanity's silent guardians, waiting in the darkness for the moment they would be needed. "And the Guardians?" Helena asked, referring to the 12 massive superweapons concealed within the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. "Ready for activation, Admiral. Power systems are charged and targeting arrays aligned." Helena nodded. "Initiate Operation Thunderhead. Alert all manned vessels to fall back to secondary defensive positions. Deploy the Ghost Fleet." Throughout the solar system, hidden sensors detected the approaching hegemony armada. Massive hyperspace distortions heralded their arrival as thousands of alien warships materialized near the orbit of Neptune. A vast armada stretching as far as the eye could see, their hulls gleaming with malevolent purpose under the distant sun. On the bridge of the hegemony flagship, now upgraded to the massive supercarrier Dominion, Torthal watched with satisfaction as his fleet assembled. The tactical display showed nearly 15,000 vessels arranged in perfect formation, the largest military force assembled in the history of the hegemony. "Status report," he demanded. "All ships present and accounted for, Commander," his executive officer replied. "Combat systems at full readiness. The humans appear to be falling back to defensive positions around their homeworld." Exorthal's mandibles clicked in what passed for a smile among his species. They've realized their mistake. They can defeat a scouting force, but not the full might of the hegemony. He turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to all ships. It's time to show these humans the price of defiance." As the hegemony armada began its advance toward the inner solar system, sensors detected movement throughout the asteroid belt. At first, the alien analysts thought it was simply debris disturbed by their ship's passage. Then, as hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands of signatures appeared on their scanners, the truth became clear. "Commander," the sensor officer called out, his voice rising in alarm. "Multiple contacts emerging from concealment throughout the system. Energy signatures suggest. Warships, many warships." Torthal rushed to the main display, his compound eyes widening as the data resolved into a terrifying image. From the asteroid belt, from Jupiter's moons, from Saturn's rings, from everywhere, small, sleek vessels were appearing. Not hundreds or even thousands, but hundreds of thousands. "Impossible," he whispered. "No civilization could build such a fleet in secret." On Earth, in the command center of Sanctuary, Admiral Chase watched as the Ghost Fleet revealed itself. Nearly 500,000 autonomous warships, each a marvel of engineering and artificial intelligence, moved to intercept the hegemony armada. "Ghost Fleet deployed," her operations officer reported. "Swarm intelligence is coordinating tactical responses. All units report combat ready." Helena nodded, her face illuminated by the glow of the tactical display. "Commence Phase 1. Target their command and control systems first. The Ghost Fleet moved with unnerving precision, forming complex, three-dimensional patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid. Unlike conventional fleets constrained by the limitations of organic crews, these vessels could execute maneuvers that would kill any living pilot, accelerating at hundreds of Gs and changing direction instantaneously. The Hegemony fleet, despite its numerical advantage, suddenly found itself confronted with a force unlike anything in their military history. The human ships didn't behave like ships at all. They moved like a single organism, adapting and evolving their tactics in real time. On the Dominion, alarms blared as the first wave of Earth's Ghost Fleet engaged. Swordfall watched in horror as his carefully arranged formation dissolved into chaos. The human vessels darted between his capital ships, targeting communications arrays and sensor nodes with surgical precision. "Return fire," he ordered, but even as the words left his mouth, he knew it was futile. The human ships were too fast, too agile. Conventional targeting systems couldn't lock onto vessels that seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously. In the first hour of the battle, over 2,000 Hegemony ships were disabled or destroyed, their command systems crippled by weapons that manipulated quantum reality itself. The human vessels suffered losses as well, but for every ghost ship destroyed, 3 more seemed to take its place, emerging from hidden docks and assembly facilities throughout the solar system. As the battle raged across the vast emptiness between Neptune and Jupiter, Dr. Kai Nakamura worked feverishly in Sanctuary's Science Center, analyzing the Hegemony's technology and tactics. Something had been bothering him since the first encounter, a pattern in the alien communications that suggested a vulnerability. "Admiral," he called over the secure channel, "I've identified a weakness in their command structure. The Hegemony fleet operates on a hierarchical network. If we can isolate and neutralize their flagship, we can disrupt their entire communication system." Helena considered this information. "Can you locate their command vessel?" "Already done," Kai replied. "It's the largest ship in their formation, a supercarrier designated Dominion according to intercepted communications. I'm sending the quantum signature to you now." Helena studied the new data, then turned to her tactical officer. "Transmit these coordinates to Ghost Fleet Command. Priority target." And she added after a moment's consideration, "Prepare the Guardians. It's time to show the Hegemony our full capabilities." Deep within the moons of Jupiter, massive power cores hummed to life. The Guardians, 12 planet-killer weapons disguised as scientific outposts, began charging their main systems. Each was capable of generating a localized singularity, a weapon of last resort designed to be used only in the direst circumstances. In the midst of the chaotic battle, Supreme Commander Xorthal struggled to maintain control of his forces. Nearly a third of his fleet was already lost or disabled, their crews trapped in ships with no power or life support. The remaining vessels fought valiantly, but were increasingly isolated as the human Ghost Fleet systematically disrupted their communications. "We need to push through to Earth," he insisted, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. "Once we reach their homeworld, we can force their surrender." His executive officer, watching the tactical display with growing despair, shook his head. "Commander, our formation is broken. The humans err." He never finished the sentence. A proximity alarm blared as hundreds of ghost ships suddenly appeared around the Dominion, having bypassed its defensive screen through some incomprehensible technology. "Evasive maneuvers," Lorthal ordered, but it was too late. The human vessels unleash a coordinated attack, targeting the Dominion's propulsion and weapons systems with precision strikes. The massive supercarrier shuddered as explosion after explosion tore through its hull. Emergency systems failed. Artificial gravity fluctuated. On the bridge, Xorthal clung to his command console as chaos erupted around him. "Status report," he demanded, but few of his officers were still at their stations. The tactical display flickered, showing the desperate situation. The Dominion was surrounded, cut off from the rest of the fleet. And worse, sensors were detecting a massive energy buildup from Jupiter's moons. "What is that?" Thorthel whispered, staring at the readings. The energy signatures were unlike anything in hegemony records, suggesting weapons of almost unimaginable power. In Sanctuary, Admiral Chase gave the final order: activate the Guardians. Target the center of the hegemony formation. Throughout the solar system, human defenders braced for what would come next. The Ghost Fleet pulled back, creating a clear zone around the main concentration of hegemony ships. From the moons of Jupiter, 12 beams of coherent energy lanced out, converging at a single point in space. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to tear open. A miniature black hole, carefully controlled and temporary, formed in the midst of the hegemony fleet. The effect was catastrophic. Hundreds of alien ships were instantly pulled toward the singularity, their hulls compressing and tearing apart as they crossed the event horizon. Others, further from the center, found themselves caught in a gravitational vortex, colliding with each other as they struggled to escape. On the Dominion, crippled but still intact, Thorthel watched in horror as a significant portion of his fleet vanished into the artificial singularity. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme distress in his species. "We've lost," he whispered, comprehension dawning at last. They were never defenseless. They were waiting for us, preparing for us. As if to confirm his realization, a transmission cut through the chaos, appearing on every functional display throughout the remaining hegemony fleet. Admiral Helena Chase's face, calm and resolute, looked out at her enemies. "Attention, hegemony forces. This is Admiral Helena Chase of Earth Defense Command. You have witnessed only a fraction of our capabilities. The weapons we have deployed are targeted specifically at your military vessels. We have thousands more, capable of reaching any world within the hegemony." She paused, letting the implication sink in. "We do not seek conflict. We do not desire conquest. But we will defend ourselves with every means at our disposal. You have 1 hour to surrender or withdraw from our solar system. There will be no further demonstration of our power." The transmission ended, leaving silence in its wake. On the bridge of the Dominion, Thorthel slumped in his command chair, the weight of his failure crushing down upon him. "Orders, Commander," his surviving executive officer asked quietly. Thorthel stared at the tactical display, where the remains of his once mighty armada drifted in disarray. Over half his ships were destroyed or disabled. The rest were scattered, their formation broken, their communications disrupted. And at the edge of the display, the 12 moons of Jupiter glowed with latent energy, ready to unleash another devastating attack. "Signal the fleet," he said finally, his voice barely audible. "All ships to cease fire and power down weapons. We surrender." Throughout the hegemony fleet, the order was met with disbelief, then resignation. Weapons powered down. Engines fell silent. The greatest armada in the history of the hegemony had been defeated by a world they had dismissed as primitive. In Sanctuary, Admiral Chase received the surrender with grim satisfaction. "Confirm their compliance," she ordered. "Maintain battle readiness until all hegemony ships have withdrawn from the system." Commander Wei nodded, then hesitated. "What about their leadership, Admiral?" "The Supreme Commander." Helena considered for a moment. "Bring him here." It's time the hegemony understood exactly who they attempted to conquer. 3 days later, Supreme Commander Thorthel stood in the central chamber of Sanctuary, surrounded by the leaders of Earth's defense forces. His mandibles clicked nervously as he took in the advanced technology around him, so far beyond what his intelligence had suggested humans possessed. Admiral Chase entered, her uniform immaculate, her bearing regal. "Supreme Commander," she acknowledged with a slight nod. "I trust you've been treated well." Thorthel's translator converted his clicks and whistles into English. "Yes, Admiral. Your people have been courteous." He paused, struggling with his pride. "I must know. How did you conceal such technology, such military might, from our observation?" Helena gestured, and a holographic display activated, showing Earth and its surrounding space. We detected your first observation platforms nearly 15 years ago, Commander. We could have destroyed them, but instead, we chose to use them. The display shifted, showing complex systems of mirrors, false energy signatures, and quantum illusions. We created a facade, a carefully constructed image of a primitive, divided world just beginning to reach for the stars. Meanwhile, beneath the surface, beneath the oceans, hidden in asteroids and moons, we built our true civilization. Orfeld's compound eyes widened as he understood the scale of the deception. But why? If you had such technology, why not announce yourselves to the galaxy? Helena's expression hardened. Because we've been watching too, Commander. We've observed how the hegemony treats primitive worlds, how you strip them of resources, subjugate their populations, erase their cultures. We chose to wait, to prepare, to ensure that when we finally revealed ourselves, it would be from a position of strength. She stepped closer, her voice lowering. Now, here are our terms. The hegemony will recognize Earth and the entire solar system as sovereign territory. A demilitarized zone will be established extending 10 light-years in all directions. Any unauthorized hegemony vessel entering this zone will be considered an act of war. Exorthal clicked his mandibles in agitation. The Council will never agree. They will, Helena interrupted, when they see this. She activated another holographic display, showing thousands of small probes streaking away from the solar system in all directions. These are our messengers, Commander. Each contains a quantum entanglement device linked to a guardian weapon. Each is programmed to position itself near a major hegemony world. Understanding dawned in Exorthal's alien features. You wouldn't. We don't want to, Helena corrected. We seek peaceful coexistence, not conquest or destruction. But we will not be conquered. We will not be subjugated. The choice is yours. Exorthal stared at the display, watching as the probe sped toward the heart of hegemony space. He had underestimated these humans once. He would not make that mistake again. I will convey your terms to the Council, he said finally. I believe they will. See the wisdom in acceptance. Helena nodded. We hope so, Commander, because we would much prefer to meet as equals, as potential allies, than as enemies. As Exorthal was escorted from the chamber, Helena turned to Dr. Kai Nakamura, who had been watching silently from the side. Do you think they'll accept? Kai asked. Helena smiled slightly. They don't have much choice. But more importantly, I think they'll learn. The hegemony has ruled through fear and technological superiority for too long. Meeting a species that can match them, or even exceed them, will force them to reconsider their approach to galactic politics. She turned to the window, looking out at the Antarctic landscape. This isn't the end, Kai. It's just the beginning. Humanity is ready to take its place among the stars. Not as conquerors, not as the conquered, but as equals. Above them, the stars shone down on a world that had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. Humanity had proven itself worthy of the stars. A civilization that would not be conquered, would not be subjugated, would not be underestimated again. In the coming months, diplomatic channels would open. Knowledge would be exchanged. The hegemony, humbled by their defeat, would approach Earth with newfound respect. Other civilizations, long oppressed by hegemony dominance, would reach out to the humans who had done the impossible. And Earth, united by the revelation of its secret defenses and the common threat they had faced, would step onto the galactic stage not as a primitive newcomer, but as a power to be reckoned with. They had believed Earth was helpless, until 500,000 warships darkened the skies. They would never make that mistake again.